بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته and welcome to another episode of the Living with Barakah show. I'm your host Mohammed Faris, the founder of the Productive Muslim Company and author of the book The Productive Muslim, where faith meets productivity. And I'm here today for a post-Ramadan reset, a post-Ramadan reboot, a post-Ramadan kick in the backside to get us all back on track, inshallah ta'ala. So if you're new here, you can type in new in the comments, whether you're joining us live on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, I think now we have. So feel free to just type in the chat and let us know if you're new here, first time here. I'd love to get to know you. Assalamu alaikum, Uzma. I can see Uzma joining us here from Facebook. Thank you for joining us, Uzma. And all of those who are joining us live and watching this live, please, this is a live session. So Nada, Sonic Najak, Nada, good to see you again. One of our masterclass graduates, mashallah. So thank you, Nada, for joining us. And yes, so this is a session that is for all of us, including myself, right? We all need that experience of just, bringing ourselves back on track. Ruhina, Sonic, Ruhina, good to see you. Join us from YouTube, mashallah. We really want to get this sort of reset. We've went through this post-Ramadan experience, and for this year specifically, it has been a very tough post-Ramadan experience, especially with what's happening in Palestine and all the sort of situation there, and that just completely threw the entire ummah off, to be honest. And the question now is, how do we get back on track? How do we get back on track and really help us develop this sort of post-Ramadan research, inshallah ta'ala. So this is going to be the session. The way this is going to work, now that we already started, the session, the way it's going to work is this is going to be a 1 hour discussion on how to build yourself up post-Ramadan. Now, a lot of us, alhamdulillah, went through Ramadan with this whole experience, right? We went through Ramadan where, all the ups and downs, but we had an immensely, this Ramadan was the Ramadan we started going back on track. We started going towards, we started getting the old kind of Ramadan feel. Some massages were open, some parts of the world were still closed. But in majority, there was like a little bit of a normal Ramadan, right? And you might have had those experiences in Ramadan, whether it's tahajjud or qiyam or reconnection with yourself. You developed yourself spiritually. You've set high intentions. For those of you who attended our high himma intention workshop, I hope you watched that. It's actually on YouTube, so check it out. All that sort of work where you've set your intentions, you said you're going to be a better version of yourself after Ramadan, and then Eid hits you, right? And then Eid hits you and you're like, your first few days you're celebrating Eid, you're visiting family and friends, you're enjoying the halwas, you're enjoying the biryanis, you're enjoying the, great food. And after that, the first couple of weeks, you're struggling, right? You're struggling. Let me know if this is true. Again, type in the comments. Let me know if this is true. You're struggling to, before in Ramadan, you wake up for suhoor like that. And now after Ramadan, you barely wake up for Fajr, right? Before Ramadan, fasting, it's easy, right? During Ramadan, at least fasting seems easy. After Ramadan, it's like, 6 days of Shawwal, like, oh my God, 6 days, right? You feel the heaviness of it, right? During Ramadan, giving charity becomes easy. After Ramadan, you're struggling. And yes, Ramadan is special. There's a special sort of atmosphere, environment, spiritual and physical and social that comes with it. But the question is, how much of it can we take post-Ramadan? What's realistic for us to take post-Ramadan? And more importantly for us is, how do we build ourselves from one Ramadan to the next? Again, for those of you who attend the intention workshop, again, you can find the workshop on YouTube. I talk about how do you build yourself, how do you set your intentions from one Ramadan to the next, inshallah. So that's what we're going to go today, inshallah. So let us sort of get started and just get an idea of kind of where we go from here, inshallah. So, you might, again, let me know if this is true or not. I'd like to be more interactive instead of me sort of lecturing for an hour. So I would like you to kind of hear from yes or no, whether you join us on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. Let me know if any of this sounds like you, right? So if any of this sounds like you, just let me know, inshallah. So number one is, each year you come out of Ramadan with some very strong like Ramadan resolutions, right? From now on, after Ramadan, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to pray tahajjud every night. I'm going to fast every Monday and Thursday. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to be a better son or daughter or mother or father, all that stuff. But you don't follow through, right? So the first couple of weeks, maybe you're excited, but then you don't follow through. Or maybe you do follow through. You start off really strong. Those first couple of weeks after Ramadan, you're on top of it. You're really nailing it. You are at your best. And you're like, alhamdulillah, I feel like I'm going to be able to keep up my post-Ramadan intentions. But then after a few weeks, and about this time of the, after Shawwal, like we're heading to exactly 15th of Shawwal. By this time, halfway through Shawwal, your motivation wanes, right? And you kind of fall back to your old self and you struggle to keep up with all those Ramadan resolutions. Let me know if this sounds like you or not. So type in the chat if it's like you or not. Or, as it happens as well, sometimes you start off strong, but you make a mistake. You slip, you commit a sin, something throws you off, or you travel, or you fall sick, or something throws you off, something that's outside of you falls you off, and you just either beat yourself up, or you feel guilty, or you just struggle to get back on track, and you think you're just not good enough to be able to do better. So can we see if I'm yes? So I'm hearing some few yeses. So hearing yeses from Zaz, yes, spot on. Yes, and Abdi's new here. Thank you, Abdi, for joining us. Appreciate you joining us. Sajid says, yep, that sounds like me. Yep. Again, it's a lot of us, not just you, it's a lot of us. So if you're struggling, if you've felt this way, the good news is this. The good news is that it is absolutely normal, right? It is absolutely normal to go through a dip post-Ramadan. All right, and I know you might think, whoa, what do you mean? I'm supposed to kind of encourage you, I'm not supposed to put you down. Yes, it is absolutely normal to go post-Ramadan. Why? Think about it. We are human beings, right? And as human beings, we cannot operate on 100% performance level every single day, right? And we go through ups and downs. We fall sick. Things happen in our lives. So it's absolutely normal for us to go through this dip. And why is this important? The reason why it's important to know that it's normal to go through this dip is so that you can recognize it and be able to deal with it almost like in a smart way. Now, again, I'm not saying, okay, Mohammed Faris told me it's normal to go for the dip. That means let me just relax and chill and just, take a year off. No. What I'm trying to say is when you start understanding that, it is absolutely normal for me to go through a dip post-Ramadan. That way you set your expectations with that mindset and you plan better and you're able to do much more than if you walk in saying, all right, I'm going to have this amazing post-Ramadan experience and I'm going to go all out. And then the moment you fail, you feel like you're a loser. The moment you fail, you feel guilty, you feel bad, you feel you're a hypocrite, you beat yourself up. And by the way, that is a classic trick of shaitan, right? Shaitan comes after Ramadan, goes, oh, you said all these intentions and goals? Great, let me just show you, right? So he just throws you off and then you see, you can't do it. You see, you can't keep up. You see, you're just a Ramadan boy or gal, right? You can't keep up with the post-Ramadan resolutions. Just go back to your old self. You'll never improve. And that, once you fall for that despair, once you fall and give up, that's when shaitan wins. We want to go a different approach. We want us to start realizing, yes, there's a dip. Yes, I'm expecting dip to happen. But no, this dip does not mean I go back to my old self. This dip does not mean that life is over for me. This dip does not mean that I'm a bad person, that I can never improve or build myself up from one Ramadan to the next. Does this make sense? So again, for those of you joining us, Luqman from KL, thank you for joining us. Mariam, thanks for joining us. I know Zizi talking about, slump because I haven't recovered. Yes. Sarah from England, welcome for joining us. Sek from Bangladesh, welcome for joining us. So does this make sense? This idea of recognize you're having a dip, but don't let that dip overcome and just completely throw you off a shot either. All right, awesome. So Mariam's saying yes. I'm gonna get the high fives. Awesome. All right, so let's then talk about something else. Let's talk about there are two types of dip. All right, so I'm gonna pull up my colorful pencils in here. My daughter will be proud of me. So let's talk about two types of dip. Right. So there is a normal dip. Okay. There's a normal dip that we can fall through, and there's what I call an abnormal dip. Or let's say a dip that we try to avoid, okay? So what does a normal dip look like? All right, so normal dip looks like this. Let's say this is this is your performance. All right, this is your performance of it. Okay, and this is, let's say, time. Okay, and let's say that this is the period. This is Ramadan. So Ramadan is here. Okay, this is Ramadan in between this period. So from here to here is Ramadan, and after that is Shawwal, and after before that's for Ramadan. Okay, so let's say that you come before Ramadan and you're at this level, this performance level. Let's say 0 to 100, you're like 30% performance. Okay, for argument's sake. So start over here, and then Ramadan comes, and mashallah, you build yourself up really well, right? You build yourself up really well. You're doing really well after Ramadan, during Ramadan. By the end of Ramadan, mashallah, you're at like your best performance ever. And then after Ramadan, it is absolutely normal. This is what I'm trying to say to you. It's absolutely normal to go through a dip. Why? Because we're humans. We're not machines. Why? Because there are so many factors. I'll talk about the different factors and reasons. But you go through a slight dip. That's normal. Okay? What we need to start realizing is that this dip is not permanent, and this dip should help us. We should be able to turn around after a few weeks and build ourselves back up again. Maybe not to the highest level you were before entering Ramadan, but to a higher level than we were when we entered Ramadan. To a higher level when we entered Ramadan. Does this make sense? So what you want to do is, you started off here, you went to the top max here, now you went down, but your down is not too bad. You didn't sort of crash. You went down a little bit, but not too bad, and you're building yourself up from a much higher base. Does this make sense? Again, let me know if in the chat if this makes sense. Well, before I go into the abnormal dip, does this make sense? All right. So you start off in a very low position. You build yourself up during Ramadan to a really high position. You go through a dip, but that dip, it's not as low as you before Ramadan. So Father's saying good, saying yes, makes sense, awesome. Now, I'll talk about how to maintain the minute. Don't worry about how maintain that. So what we need to think about now is the abnormal dip. So I'm going to take the same thing. So I'll take performance here. All right. So we're going to take performance here, time here. This is Ramadan is here. And we start off pretty strong. Sorry, we start pretty weak. We go for Ramadan, boom, we are there, we're doing well. And then we just go through this crazy crash, right? Like literally, like it's not even a dip anymore, it's a crash, right? So you kind of like fall really strong, you just completely, just all those, like the comic books, right? You crash completely. That is off, right? That is what you're trying to avoid. So normal dip is fine. Normal dip is absolutely fine. It's human, and don't worry about it. Don't feel bad that you're going through a dip post Ramadan, because it's normal. You're human. What you need to think about is how we're gonna build ourselves up so that we don't go back to our old selves. At least even a small improvement, that is really, really good. Big dip, we're trying to avoid. This crash is we're trying to avoid. Does this make sense? Again, I'm pause here a little second. Does this make sense? Type in the chat. Let me know if this makes sense or not. Inshallah. This makes sense. Now, where do I get this from? So you might think, well, what does this mean? Like, how do you, how does this make sense? So the thing to keep in mind is Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in a prophetic hadith talks about the idea of shirra and fatra, right? It says لِكُلِّ عَمَلٍ shirra وَلِكُلِّ شِرَّةٍ fatra. So every deed there's a moment of zeal, right? Every deed is a moment of zeal, and for every zeal there's a slackening. Meaning what? It's normal, it's human. You probably see this in different areas of your life. Let's say you start exercising. When you first start exercising, it's a moment of zeal, excitement. You want to go all out. You hit the gym. You do all your best. And then for every zeal, لِكُلِّ شِرَّةٍ فترة. For every moment of zeal, there's a slackening. There is like, man, I can't keep up, right? That is absolutely normal. Now, what Prophet Muhammad recommends and is very clear, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ فَتْرَتُهُ إِلَى سُنَّتِي فَقَدْ أَفْلَحَ. Whoever is slackening, when you go in your dips, when you go through his moments of dips here, if it's towards his sunnah, meaning what? Meaning you're not missing prayers. meaning you're not completely disconnected from the Quran, meaning you're not you're not completely stopped fasting, meaning like you're trying your best, you're towards the Sunnah. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ فَتْرَتُهُ إِلَى السُنَّةِ فَقَدْ أَفْلَحَ. Then this person will be successful. وَمَنْ كَانَ إِلَى غَيْرِ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ هَلَكَ. And whoever is not towards my Sunnah, means let's say someone goes all out, right? Someone just completely crashes, they just completely, just post-Ramadan, forget, they just completely crash across all areas of their life, then that person has basically destroyed themselves, they ruined themselves. And again, you can see this not just in the spiritual sense, you can see this in all areas of life. Think about, let's say, exercising, for example. You probably know somebody who was really good. They start exercising, they went through a 6-week diet, 6-week, exercise program, did really well. They got to a high point, and then one day they just said, you know what, forget it. And it crashed. And they not only crashed, but they crashed really badly. They just completely went back to their old self, even something worse than their old self. And that is part of this whole human nature. This hadith talks about this human nature, that this idea of zeal and the idea of fatra, idea of sort of slackening. Our faith tells us it's normal, you should expect it, but don't let this slackening be too low. Don't make this moment of going down be too low. You kind of have to hold yourself a little bit. Just like maintain some kind of, we'll talk about this in a minute, how to maintain a low level that's not too low, or that's lower than where you were before Ramadan. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? I want to again double check if this makes sense to everyone, inshallah. This idea of understanding it's normal to go through a slackening, it's understandable, but don't crash. We're trying to avoid that crashing mechanism, inshallah. All right, let's see here. Okay, so let us I want to go over is why do we go through this crash, right? Why do we go through this dips? Why do we completely sometimes, we go through this dip in the first place? And then once we understand why, I'm going to work with you to figure out, well, how to overcome it, okay? So let's do it, inshallah. So get back to my colorful pencils here. So why we dip? Why is there a dip? So let's do this. Why we dip post-Ramadan or post any major effort. Right, so I'm going to write a few reasons here, inshallah. The first reasons I'll talk about is spiritual reasons. The second reasons I'll talk about here, inshallah, is psychological reasons. The third reasons, inshallah, is environmental reasons. And by environment, I mean your own personal environment. I'm not talking about, environment in the wider sense, but the environment, your own personal environment. And finally, social reasons, inshallah. Okay, so these are the four reasons. Again, I'm sure you come up with more reasons, but these are the four we will cover today, inshallah. So let's talk about spiritual. What do you think are the spiritual reasons that will get in the way of dipping? What are the spiritual reasons? So we'll talk about two major spiritual reasons. One is, of course, the shaitan, right? We need to start talking about shaitan as a real enemy. A lot of us, we don't talk about shaitan. We think of this almost like a metaphorical being versus a real being, and that is out to get us. So shaitan is real. Talk about shaitan. The idea that shaitan is real. The idea shaitan is a factor in our life that has negative influence on our life, and recognizing the reality of shaitan and recognizing that he's out there to bring you down, to help you crash as fast as possible is important. Because if you don't recognize, if you're like, oh yeah, whatever, like the shaitan thing, you don't take it seriously and you don't realize he's out there to get you. It's almost like, again, if you don't take precautions, you don't plan, don't think, well, how am I going to protect myself from the influence of shaitan so that I don't fall, so I don't crash post-Ramadan. The second thing is, again, so one is the shaitan being a spiritual reasons that affect us spiritually. The second one is our nafs, right? Ourselves. And again, this will also enter into the psychological sphere in a minute, but our nafs also plays a role. So our nafs is our ego, ourselves, almost also the nafs, the part of us that likes to relax, to chill, to take it easy. The instant, sorry about the camera here. The instant gratification, we call it instant gratification monkey, right? The wants things now. And I don't want to work hard for 5-10 years. I don't think about planning for I don't keep up with some of these habits, wake up early, praying tahajjud. This is all tiring stuff. I just want to sit and sleep and relax, right? This idea, this is a nafs desires. And that's why the shaitan nafs can play a great tag team, because One kind of whispers and almost like, yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, I want to just want to chill. I want to relax. I don't want to push myself hard. So the spiritual reasons, these are secondaries affects our nafs and shaitan as well. And one thing to keep in mind with the spiritual self is that this is actually tied to the physical side. What do I mean by this? A lot of us think about it, most of us in Ramadan, we put a lot of effort, right? So the fasting, the prayers, the Taraweeh, the Quran, there's a lot of physical effort that goes into Ramadan. And after Ramadan, our bodies are tired. Right? A lot of times the body is tired. It needs to catch up on sleep. It may need to catch up on food. It might need to catch up on nutrition. So our bodies are feeling tired. And when the body feels tired, this sometimes can be prime time for shaitan and nafs to come in, right? Because it says, you're tired. Let's just take it easy, man. Relax. You don't have to fast 60 days Shawwal. It's just sunnah. Oh man, just chill out, right? Relax. Just take this easy. This idea of just make you, just when you're tired, it's easier to fall into sin. When you're tired, it's easier to basically not keep up with, to give yourself the excuse, I need some rest and recovery. Now again, yes, your body has a right upon you. You do need to give some rest. But sometimes when you indulge yourself a little bit too much, this may lead to the crash, right? Which is what we're trying to avoid. You're trying to avoid the crash. And we're going to focus on building those, kind of maintaining sort of maintenance level. And again, there's a lot of similarities between spiritual development and exercise and physical development, which we'll talk about as well. So why we dip, number one, is for spiritual reasons. And we need to recognize that shaitan is out there to make sure we crash, and recognize his schemes and how he plans and plots to make us, to help to kind of bring us down. Recognize our nafs natural tendencies to want to relax, to want to chill, to want to, instant gratify ourselves instead of, working hard towards a long-term goal, especially something in the akhirah. And recognize that the body, when it's tired, it's more susceptible. Just like when a body is tired, it's more susceptible to illnesses and more susceptible to disease. When it's tired, it's also more susceptible to spiritual disease because it's just tired. It doesn't have the mental capacity, the physical capacity to be able to deal with saying no to itself or saying no to its desires, saying no to not relax and indulge inshallah. Does this make sense? Again, if you're watching us live on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, please let me know in the chat. I'll make sure that you this makes sense. The idea of why we dip from a spiritual perspective and the impact of our spiritual side on us going through this dip, whether it's a normal dip or a crash. Now again, depends how hard. We all dip. The question is, how hard do you fall? Do you fall through a big crash or do you fall a normal dip? Does this make sense, inshallah? So I'm here, Sakinatu, saying, yes, it does. Awesome. Let's hear from others, inshallah. Farah, welcome Farah, good to have you with us. Shireen, yes. Dr. Bear, welcome Dr. Bear, thanks for joining us. Awesome, and Fatma's here, great. All right, okay, awesome. That's a good one, yes, Zizi, that's a good point. The idea of, shaitan exploiting your tiredness. And this is a classic way of thinking about it. Sometimes, and this is also, think about it, a lot of times shaitan comes when you're weakest, right? When you're emotionally weak, when you're physically weak, when you're going through difficulties. And that's why sometimes, even at the moments of death, scholars will say sometimes that at the moment of death, shaitan will come to you at that moment when you are at your end's wits, and he'll try to, seduce you away from La ilaha illallah. He'll try to do anything because that's his last chance. So yes, those things are real, and he knows when we're tired. He knows human beings. He understands this because over 1,000 years history, right? So Shireen saying, I can feel the crash. Don't worry, you're not alone, inshallah. So this idea of figuring out how to manage that. Yes, awesome. All right, so fatigue is definitely a factor, and I'm glad you guys mentioned. So the idea of fatigue, I'll put it here in brackets so we all capture it. Fatigue is definitely a factor, and a factor from a spiritual perspective. Fatigue is not just a physical perspective, but it actually impacts our spirituality. So that's the spiritual reasons why we dip. So let's go into the psychological reasons. Psychologically, I mentioned this in the email, for those who are part of our newsletter. There's something called the licensing effect, and there's something called the what the hell effect. All right, so excuse the language here, but I'm sure you'll understand why in a minute, inshallah. And it's actually a term in psychology. You can look it up. So the what the hell effect. Okay, so let's talk about these two, inshallah. So the licensing effect is this, and again, you probably experienced this already. The licensing effect says that when you do something right, let's say you're eating well, you're eating healthy. Let's say you're having good relationship with your parents and your children and your spouse. Let's say you just gave a nice gift to somebody. Let's say you just gave a big amount of charity, right? When you do something that's good, whether it's morally, whether it's spiritually, whether it's physically, whether it's socially, sometimes when we do that good deed or that good action or that good point, basically, we give ourselves the license to do something bad, right? It's almost like, you go on a diet and you give yourself the license to eat ice cream afterwards. Or you exercise really hard and then you give yourself the license to have that muffin cake afterwards, right? Or you work super, or you build yourself up and I don't know, let's say you have a great, you do something really nice for your parents, and then you give yourself the license to be sort of, not listen to them afterwards, like, oh, I did something super nice for them, right? So it's almost like the licensing effect where, we've been through a Ramadan. Maybe you've worked hard. Maybe you finished the Quran. You gave a big amount of charity. You fasted. You did all these good deeds. You feel really good about yourself. And therefore, you come after Ramadan and you give yourself the license to say, it's okay, man. I've done really hard in Ramadan. I can chill. I can take it really easy, right? And then Shaitan comes, of course, and he gives you even better advice. Oh, you worked really hard in Ramadan. It's okay, man. Just you don't have to fast 6 days of Shawwal. It's okay. You don't have to get up for Tahajjud and Fajr. It's okay. You can pray at home. It's okay. You can, don't worry about reading the Quran for a few days, maybe a few weeks. Maybe after Shawwal, you can start picking up the Quran again. It's okay. You don't have to exercise. It's okay. You don't have to work on those goals set in Ramadan. You can, you can wait another, give yourself 2-week break of, or maybe a vacation about a month or two, and then you can pick it up again, right? That licensing effect. You give yourself the license and you feel good about it. So that's the licensing effect. Does this make sense, right? The idea of, giving yourself the license and notice where you give yourself the license. How many of us have already used this license, right? How many of us have said to ourselves, it's okay. Let's say you've set those intentions post Ramadan, but as soon as after Ramadan came, you're starting to use up these licenses. You're giving yourself these excuses, rather, for not doing something because you were so good, because you did really well, because you've built up yourself in Ramadan. So give yourself the license. So that's the licensing effect. The second one, it's called the what the hell effect. And the what the hell is, again, very similar, also very similar to the licensing effect. The what the hell effect goes like this. You have let's say you're on a diet, right? And you go to your friend's house and they have pizza, right? Nice, cheesy, super unhealthy pizza, right? And says, hey, have a slice. You're like, no, I'm on a diet. I don't want to ruin my diet and really sort of focus on my diet. It's like, come on, man, just one slice. It's not gonna mess up your diet. You're like, all right, fine, I'll have a slice, okay? So you have one slice and you're like, what the hell? I had one slice. This pizza's awesome. I love cheese pizza. I'm gonna eat the whole pizza, right? So you give yourself the what the hell effect is, again, where you not only do you give yourself the license, but then you go all out, right? So let's say you miss Fajr one day. And he's like, oh, what the hell? If I miss Fajr, let's say you overslept, for example, by 10 minutes. And you're like, I overslept, what the hell? I'm gonna sleep for another 3 hours and I'll pray Fajr way later on. Or I've missed one day of fasting, which I said I'll fast. Oh, what the hell? Forget it. I'm not gonna fast, these voluntary fasts ever again. Or you picked up the Quran once, and one day you didn't read Quran in the morning, or you skipped your Quran. You're like, oh, what the hell? I won't read Quran the whole day, maybe a whole week, because I skipped it for one day. And again, a lot of times the what the hell effect falls in this perfectionist. People are perfectionist, where there's it's either all or nothing. Either I do everything perfectly, right? I have this amazing post-Ramadan plan. If my post-Ramadan plan does not work out, forget it. I'm out of here. Or, basically, or we think, or nothing. We just don't do it, basically. So all or nothing mindset, a lot of it affects people who are perfectionists. This, the what the hell effect goes into that, inshallah. Does this make sense? So the psychological reasons, we spoke about 2 reasons so far. We talked about spiritual reasons, the psychological reasons. The spiritual reasons is the shaitan and nafs. And again, a lot of it tied into our physical fatigue. And the psychological reasons is the licensing effect and the what the hell effect. So I want to double check that you all got that, inshallah. I'm going to read through some of your comments here, inshallah. Sami, yes, shaitan hits around Isha time, totally yes, especially if you're a morning person. After Isha time, you're like I'm zombie mode, I'm totally zombie mode, inshallah. Said summarizing, yes, we've got 3 influences into man, nafs, shaitan, environment, and more, inshallah. Samarine, thank you, saying this makes sense, awesome. All right, let's hear it from Miriam saying, yes, definitely makes sense. Awesome. And then Salima saying, didn't know fatigue can have this kind of impact. Yes, absolutely. It does really get to you, inshallah. All right, awesome. Yeah, I mean, Nada has a good point here, saying that sometimes Shaitan says, you want to improve yourself a little bit, but just stick to level 1. Go slow, right? And sometimes go slow means don't do anything extra. Just don't do anything extra at all. And the idea of, build yourself, Shaitan. Zizi talks about the licensing effect makes so much sense. I finished the Quran so many times in Ramadan that allows me to watch hours of YouTube shorts. Yes, yes, exactly. And this is you're not the only person. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to you exactly. We give ourselves like, I've done so well. Let me give myself my mindset. Uzma saying, I do that all or nothing, right? Either things have to be done perfectly or I do nothing. And those are great examples of that. So thank you for sharing. And I appreciate you guys sharing, personal story, because I'm sure all people struggle with this. This is not, again, it's not a bad person or oh my God, you're someone you do. No, we all into this together. We need to figure it out. And unless we learn about this, recognize it, hold up the mirror, like what's going on here? Why are we struggling with this? So we spoke about spiritual reasons, spoke about psychological reasons. Let's talk about the environmental reasons. I mean, environmental reasons is pretty self-explanatory. It's basically everyone's chilled, right? Everyone's going through a dip. Like you look at, you go to, for me, that the part that really hits me is when let's say you go Fajr normally. You go Fajr, for example, and then you just see everyone sorry, my camera's also going a bit whack today. You go Fajr and everyone's just super tired. So everyone's like either Fajr's empty, right? So you go to masjid. I'm trying to get this camera going. Hold on a second. Whoop. Yeah, there you go. So let's say, for example, Fajr Ramadan is packed, or Isha is packed, or most prayers are packed, and then you go for Fajr Isha and it's like no one's there, right? It's really empty. That environment just crushes you, right? Because you're like all that motivation, that hype, and even though yes, you try to be sincere, do things, it doesn't matter if people are there or not, but the environment makes a difference. In all your friends and all your neighbors and all your family members, and everyone's going to masjid, and everyone's reading the Quran, and everyone's fasting, and everyone's giving charity. That is what makes Ramadan special. Also, the social factor is huge. When we don't find the environment, when we don't find a support system, when we just like that environment completely crumbles, that is another reason going through dip. You look at your own family, you look at your own self, your children, those around you, everyone's just taking a back seat. That plays a role. Again, I'm not here to say, what do you do about it? We'll talk about what do you do about the environment in a minute, but it's just recognizing environment plays a huge role in us going through this dip, right? If you don't manage our environments really well, it might, make this going back to this crash. Because let's say all your friends are crashing, guess what? There's a high likelihood you'll crash as well. So yes, Samarine, absolutely, the collective energy does matter, and don't underestimate it. Don't think that you are resilient, you're a Superman, a Superwoman who can just, withstand the fact that everyone around you has dropped suddenly their energy levels. No, there is an impact, right? So recognize it. We'll talk about how to deal with it in a minute, but just recognize it. That's in the step shot item. And then this is also very, very, very similar. The social reasons is not only is everyone's energy going down, but it's almost like everyone's pulling you down. There's this idea of, how can I put it in a nice way? You know how sometimes, let's say you're on a diet and none of those around you on a diet, not only do they don't let you go on a diet, they discourage you. They actively discourage you from going on a diet. Why? Because A, it makes them feel bad. And B, they'll have to change, adapt to your changes, right? So sometimes the social energy, the social pressures, right? So social pressure. So one is, yes, in environments like everyone's sort of energy goes down, everyone's taking a back seat. But then sometimes people actively put you down. People actively say, hey, come on, man, what do you mean you're fasting today? It's Ramadan is over. What do you mean you're fasting? What do you mean you're reading the Quran these days? Just take a back seat. The active social pressure that brings you down, right? The active social, and again, this is why it's so important to choose the right companions, to choose friendship who will help uplift you. But sometimes the social pressure can be almost actively put you down. That's why, a lot talks about shayateen, ins or jinn. Sometimes the shaitan can be in the form of a jinn and also a human being. And the shaitanic sense in a human being sense is someone who actively puts you down from reaching your full potential, right? Who discourages you from reaching your full potential. So this one is the idea of social pressures. So social pressures just play a role. So it's one thing that your environment is going through a dip, but it's one thing that you're trying to withstand social pressure, right? It's almost like, again, for those sometimes you work in an environment, let's say in a workplace, and let's say Ramadan, your boss, everyone else knows it's Ramadan because all the Muslim colleagues get together and start praying. Like, oh, it's Ramadan, they are praying. And then after Ramadan, you want to pray, but then none of your colleagues are praying, or very few of your colleagues are praying. And then it gets a really awkward situation, and there's like social pressure on you. Like, your friend, your Muslim, hey man, you don't have to pray, it's after Ramadan. And this social pressure goes on you as well, inshallah. So, yes, does this make sense? Again, does this make sense? The 4 factors, of course, spiritual factors, psychological factors, environmental factors, and social factors. Does this make sense, right? Yes, absolutely, submarine. So again, great point here about peer pressure is a challenge to stand up to. It's a huge challenge. And again, don't underestimate it. Don't think that you're, just because you go through this dip doesn't mean, and especially if you're due to social pressure, don't feel that you're immune to it. It does impact you, inshallah. So yes, the recordings will be available. So thanks for asking. The recording will be available right on YouTube as soon as webinar live stream is over, inshallah. So spoke of spiritual, psychological, environment, social. So I want you to take a minute now and just start reflecting on yourself. Take a pen and paper and start thinking, why am I facing this dip? What's impacting me? Is this the spiritual sense? Is it the psychological? Is it the environmental? Is it the social? Because each of these play a role, and each of these play an active role in different ways. So what's happening here? What's the dip happening, inshallah? And also type in the chat which one of these that you're feeling the most impact from. Is it the spiritual attack, the spiritual dip, the physical, led by physical fatigue? Is it psychological, the licensing effect, the what the hell effect? Is it the environmental, everyone's energy dropping down and you feel like everyone to relax too? Or active social pressure, peer pressure that you need to stand up against? So which of these are you affected? If you can type in the chat as we wait, inshallah. So let's see, let me just change this one. So you got Azlina, green environment and social, keep good people good to you, absolutely. Yes. Let's see if anyone else would like to share which of these do you feel will be most impactful for you, inshallah. All right. Okay. Yes, so note a good point. So it is not okay to think of this license actually a reward we get after doing something good. Yes, again, it's a tricky situation. You don't want to be too harsh on yourself, right? You don't want to be like, oh my God, there's no relaxation ever, right? But you need to be really careful. Give yourself tarweeh al-nafs, give yourself the space to realize, okay, I need some space, I need to relax a little bit, I need to take some time off. You know yourself better. For some people, they might need a few days, not say off completely, but just scale things down a little bit. Maybe change the environment, maybe change the routine a little bit, so that at least they come back stronger, inshallah. And then, but don't let the licensing effect where you give yourself the excuse that to do something bad or to drop something completely because, I was good in Ramadan. That's what we want to avoid, inshallah. So Salima is saying spiritual and psychological effects is there. Bill, what the hell effect? Absolutely. And we all face that. Nani, fatigue. Yes, fatigue is building there, inshallah. The physical fatigue for Sarah. Yes, absolutely. Nada, the physical and environmental. Salima, fatigue is a big one, inshallah. Fariza, spiritual is the one that gets to you. Sajid, environment, what the hell effect? Awesome. Bint Musa, spiritual. Yes, Putra, there's a good one. Environmental, going back to work after Ramadan. So if some of you took a break or took a vacation during Ramadan and focused on your ibadah, and then going back after Ramadan, so you find a dip, absolutely. Samia, spiritual fatigue, definitely major role, and Shaitan having a blast with this, right? Absolutely. The licensing effect, give us a bit too much leeway, yes, and again, we all guilty of this. Sometimes we give ourselves a bit too much leeway, and the good news is that we can build ourselves, inshallah. So submarine, I can feel the licensing effect, that you take small consistent steps, comes to mind. Social pressure also affecting. Uzma saying, I have 2 sets of friends, one who calls me towards Islam, other who calls me towards sins. Yes, it's pressure, absolutely. Brilliant. I mean, thank you all for sharing. This is amazing. Thank you for sharing and just being open, because that's how we learn, that's how we develop, that's how we look in the mirror and realize, okay, you know what, I'm struggling with this and I'm sharing because I want to help myself and others recognize you're not alone. And we can do this, inshallah. We can get out of this stuff, inshallah. So let's work towards this. Let's sort of let us build ourselves out of this dip, inshallah, and get ourselves to a higher level. I'm not saying get to Ramadan level. Remember I said that's no to go through a dip after Ramadan. We're not going to get to a Ramadan level, but we can get to, a bit higher than we are right now, inshallah. So 4 steps, right? So 4 steps. Let's do it. Bismillah. 4 steps. Step number 1 is you want to, first of all, oopsies, let me just make sure I got my notes here so I don't put the wrong things. You want to, Allahumma salli, press the reset, and just because I like, so I'm being very colorful today. Press the reset button, okay? Press the reset button. When you find yourself sliding, right? When you find yourself, on this free fall, right? You find yourself about to crash. You're like, wee, you're going down this free fall. When you find yourself on that trajectory, you need to almost like press the brakes, press the reset button. And the way personally for me that I've found that most helpful to press the reset button and to kind of like hold on to the brakes and not go free fall and crash is to find some quiet time. And this could be like someday after Fajr, go to a quiet place late at night if you want to. If you wake up middle of the night, something like find some quiet time. I know it's hard when you have kids and family, but there's sometimes maybe a moment in your day where things are a little bit quiet. And just sit together with yourself, with a journal, with a pen and paper, and just reconnect deeply with yourself and your why. Saying, okay, what is it, who am I, right? Who am I? And for those of you who attend the Productive Muslim Masterclass, you know the answer, right? You are abd, you are a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? He is your master, you are his slave, you are his servant, you are you belong to him. That's why I say, we belong to Allah and to him we shall return. So recognize that. You're not, so sometimes one of the reasons why I find the licensing effect and what the hell effect and what the shaitan take over is we feel like, oh, I can, I'm a person who, I don't recognize my true purpose in life. If I'm deeply recognizing my true purpose in life, and that is to be a servant, my vocation, my main job description on this earth is to be a abd, a slave, a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that recognition, and for some people it's a struggle to get that recognition, for others they're able to make that recognition easily, that is your starting point. That's the reset button, saying, oh Allah, I am your servant, I am your servant, I'm your slave, I belong to you, right? And I need your help, right? I need your help. And that's why the Surah Al-Fatiha, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Oh Allah, we see you alone we worship, and you alone we seek help. So recognizing that you're worshiping him, and then immediately after that, recognizing his help. So it's almost like you get to this point of saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save me, right? Literally, like I'm on a free fall. Shaitan, nafs, licensing effect, what the hell effect, environment, social, it's all building up, and I don't know if I'm able to withstand this. And I don't want to go to my pre-Ramadan self. I don't want to crash. I don't want to go through a massive crash. It will take me years to get, months to build up. Hold me, right? Almost like hold on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Allah talks about holding on to his rope in the Quran, and hold on, right? Allah help me. Let me help me. Almost you want to cling, right? Literally the word of clinging. And this idea of being in a state of desperation, recognizing your weakness and recognizing your need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually a beautiful, beautiful part of spiritual development and repentance and going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stronger. Because sometimes we get this, we feel we're in control. We feel like, yeah, I got this down. I had this amazing Ramadan. I got this down. I'm in control. I can plan my life. I'll be an amazing person after Ramadan. And then you realize how weak you are, how much the environment plays a role, how the spiritual factors plays a role, how the psychology plays a role, how your body fatigue plays a role. And you realize, gosh, I'm so weak and I need Allah's help, right? I'm nothing without Allah's permission. I'm nothing without his help. That moment, when you reconnect that deeply with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you reset yourself with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in that moment, that's your turning point. That's the trajectory up inshallah. That is a beautiful way, because it's you're fixing your mindset. It's not about you trying to kind of fight all these warriors, this shaitan, the nafs and the psychology. It's just recognizing the deep sense of need you have for him. Once you've done that part, once you've recognize that part. The next part right after that is saying, okay, is resetting intentions. Is saying, oh Allah, help me. My intention post-Ramadan, and my sincere intention. This is the thing I love about this word sincerity, because sincerity, no one knows who's except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah, my sincere intention is to turn to you. My sincere intention is to be a better version. My sincere intention is to uplift from this massive dip I'm in right now and to get back on track. Setting intentions is your why. Setting intentions and sincere intentions is a powerful activating point. So press the reset button. And again, press the reset button. How do you press the reset button? Number one, find a quiet place. So find a quiet place and just really take some time off for yourself. It doesn't have to be long. It could be like even a few moments after prayer can be very powerful. Number two, reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognizing this idea of servant, slave, master relationship between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Reconnect deeply with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Recognize the idea of إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Number three, reset intention. Reset your sincere intention that, you know what, Allah, I really want to be better. I'm not going to let this free fall happen. I really want to be better, but I need your help. Does this make sense? Again, does this make sense? Again, please type in the chat if this makes sense, inshallah. Right? This idea of reconnecting and letting that reconnection being your turning point and being that activation point, right? And building that up, inshallah. So Abdi is saying, yes, it makes sense. It's alhamdulillah, that's beautiful. Alhamdulillah, thank you for sharing. Yes, it's being spiritual attacked. Yes, that's a real thing, happens. Absolutely. Right? Does this make sense? The idea of unless we reconnect and saying, you know what, I can't do this on my own, right? I'm not, and this is another thing, one thing about hustle culture, for those who read out my work about hustle culture, butter culture, hustle culture is very egocentric. It's about me, myself. I'm Superman, I'm Superwoman. I can handle this. I can do this, even spiritually. I can take this all. But again, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Oh Allah, you alone worship, and you alone seek your help from. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Guide us, right? Guide us, help us, guide us. And the moment you recognize that, by the way, the beautiful thing once you recognize this is that you're actually gonna throw shaitan off completely, because he's like, oh man, all that work I've built up to crash you, you kind of use that negative energy to reconnect and almost plead your way back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah loves that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turns to you and loves that. So almost like all that work he did trying to mess you up after Ramadan, you almost like he gets wiped out. Right? Especially if you have some tawbah, repentance, gets wiped out, and you start off fresh again. And you jump back to reconnecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Awesome. So Amina says yes, makes sense. Azina says yes, makes sense. Awesome. Really, really good. I'm glad it makes sense. Okay. That's step one. All right. Don't get too excited. We have some work to do. Step two is to find out what, think of core habits. Okay. So I'm gonna take a sheet of or a playbook from those who do exercise. So I love cycling, right? For those who know me, I love cycling. I go cycling for hours. I love cycling. And sometimes when you go cycling, if you're training, right? If you're training hard and you go for long hours, once you finish, and I'm sorry, but my camera today is messing up. Okay, no. Yep, nope. Is the camera? Can you connect, please? Oh goodness, there you go. So once you recognize that, once you go through hard training, it's very easy for you to, they tell you never just stop training. Let's say you went through a really long race or a really long ride. Don't just stop training. You have to go something like active recovery. Meaning what? That meaning you need to go and cycle, but don't cycle long, but just move your body. Get yourself active recovery. The idea of active recovery is very, very pertinent here as well. Meaning you finish Ramadan and you hit your highs. You are at a spiritual high with the Quran, you're fasting, with everything else. Post Ramadan, don't just stop, right? You actually can hurt yourself. In the physical sense, in the gym, if you hit the gym and you exercise very hard, if you don't do active recovery, you can literally hurt yourself. But it's go to active recovery mode. What is active recovery? Is figuring out what are your non-negotiable habits that you have to maintain. You're almost like maintenance habit, right? So think about your maintenance habit. So what are those maintenance habits that non-negotiable? So this is the key word, non-negotiable. It means that shaitan, environment, psychology, no psychology. These are non-negotiable. What are those habits? Things, for example, let's say the basics, right? The 5 daily prayers. If you know the basics. Maybe reading some Quran, whatever is your capacity is. If you normally read a juz, that's your juz. If you read half a page, that's it. Whatever is your non-negotiable. A lot of you mentioned fatigue. So things like, whether you need to figure out your nutrition and your exercise. For those who join the masterclass, we talk about nutrition and exercise and how you can leverage those for spiritual development. So it's nutrition, exercise as well. And because dealing with fatigue is one way is active recovery is needed from a physical perspective. Another one could be quality time. Again, sometimes what happens is after Ramadan, quality, rest and relaxation time with, not, I'll say focused as well, not distracted. Why am I thinking about this? A lot of times after Ramadan, people come after Ramadan and, because maybe they were trying to catch up on work, they just kind of push themselves into work. A lot of professionals do this, right? You have Ramadan, you kind of take a break or you kind of slow a little bit in your performance. And after Ramadan comes, you kind of go all out and you end up, really sort of burning yourself out. You're just tired from Ramadan and you then burn yourself at work and those two meet and you completely crash post-Ramadan. So to avoid that, build in some breaks, build in those weekends, build a quality time. Those are important, inshallah. So step 2, figure out what is your non-negotiable active recovery maintenance habits, the things that will keep you going. They'll keep your muscles, flexible. They'll keep you mobile enough. They'll keep you active enough so that when you're ready to go up again, you can build your ramp up again. But if you just stop, if you just complete crash, and this is the genius, by the way, of the prophetic advice of fasting 6 days of Shawwal. This is the genius about it. A lot of people used to ask, why do you fast 6 days of Shawwal? Why 6, right? Not 3, not 2, not 1, but 6. It's like it's long enough that it's a bit difficult, but short enough that you can get it done in a month, 30 days time, right? And that is active recovery. It's you just fast for 30 days. If you stopped completely or just fast like 1 or 2 days, you may not be able to maintain the fasting habit maybe post Ramadan. But the 6 days is just long enough to get your fasting muscles moving, but not too long enough that you just, that you feel like, I can't do this, I can't keep up with this. So does this make sense? So find out what your core habits, your non-negotiable, and again, depending where you are spiritually, it could be the basics, the obligatory stuff, whether it's prayer, whether it's, sort of paying back some of the fast that you've missed during Ramadan, whether it's the Quran, the basics. Don't, and if you already have the basics down, is moving up a little bit of a notch. Whatever is your maintenance, every person is different, just like athletes. Some people's active recovery is like my workout. Some of these like top athletes, like their cyclists, their active recovery is kind of my own. That's like my workout for the week. So it depends where you are as well, and you build yourself up from there, inshallah. Does this make sense? Again, type in the chat if this makes sense. And again, share, maybe again, it's a good way to kind of help each other. Share what will be those core habits, those active recovery maintenance habits that you're going to start doing, or maybe you're already doing, that will help you maintain some kind of performance post-Ramadan, even when you don't feel like it, even when you feel tired, even when shaitan hits you, even when you're in a spiritual attack, even when under your psychology, when the licensing effect takes place. These are non-negotiable. You'll do them no matter what. Let's say you missed your Quran in the morning, you'll read at night. You missed one day of voluntary fasting, maybe you missed the Monday fast, you'll fast on Tuesday. Like, these are non-negotiable for you. That's how you need to think about them. So share the comments, and let's see what we have here. So Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Yes, so great one, Samarine. Being in a state of wudu helps you keep fatigue off. That's definitely a spiritual way of dealing with fatigue, inshallah. So here, Sayyid talks about continuing the Quran, even if it's a page. Yes, active recovery. And again, depending on what your level is. If you're somebody who normally reads 1 juz, for example, and then maybe in Ramadan you read 2 juz, so coming back to 1 juz a day. If you're someone who normally reads 1 page anyway, then maybe what's your active recovery? It could be like half a page or 1 page, depending where you are. So if you're someone who reads 1 juz, reading 1 page might be like a downgrade for you. So you need to think of what's my minimum performance level I want to maintain, and that builds over time. Inshallah. Right, so Nani said Tawbah and Witr before Fajr. Yes. Put to say maintain some kind of morning routine. Yes. And this is good in Putri, like think about a morning routine that you can maintain, right? A morning routine that you can keep up with. Not a morning routine that's overwhelming as well. So keep a morning routine, inshallah. So bin mus, increase sunnah prayers. Again, bin mus, again, depends where you are. If you don't pray sunnah prayers normally, and this is going to be a stretch for you, don't push yourself too hard. Build yourself. Look, where am I at the moment, inshallah, right? Again, Maryam, thanks for sharing that. Sometimes just having a habit is easy to do, and that's why like dhikr, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allah Akbar, just being on a constant state of dhikr, that, because it's so easy and hopefully it doesn't take too much time and effort and doesn't take a lot of sort of energy from you, it's a beautiful to reconnect spiritually. It maintains you spiritually and keeps you going. So thanks for sharing that, Maryam. Great suggestion there, inshallah. Yes, Noor, morning, evening, adhkar. Wonderful. So this is wonderful. I'm glad all of you are sharing amazing stuff here. So thank you again for sharing. So let's go on step 3. I'm conscious of the time. Let's go to step 3, inshallah. Step 3 is, there you go. All right, step 3 is, so just press the reset button. That's the step 1. Step 2, core habits. Step 3 is remove the obstacles. All right, so you need to start, now that you know that, I know that I need to focus on this core habit. What are the obstacles that will get in the way? What will get in the way of me maintaining my core habits? Maybe, maybe it's a bit of distractions, external distractions. Maybe it could be your phone. Maybe, like you said, someone said early on, like I binge on YouTube instead of reading the Quran or something like that, like external distractions. Maybe internal distractions, some thoughts, some feelings, emotions you're dealing with. You need to figure out how to remove, or I'll say maybe if removing is hard, how to manage, right? Manage the obstacles. So either external distractions or internal distractions could be another one as well, inshallah. So those are 2 things that can focus on, inshallah. The third thing would be, I would say, eliminate options. What do I mean by this? Sometimes, and I've seen this again, I'll take in a paper from the exercise world, and I'm coming here. Sometimes, let's say if you're in the gym, for example, right? You're trying to be healthy, and you give yourself a lot of options. I could do cardio, I could be doing strength. In strength, I could do upper workout, lower workout, also workouts, right? You give us a lot of options. And the more you give yourself a lot of options, you actually end up being paralyzed, right? It's called the paradox of choice. You feel paralyzed and you feel like, I don't know what to do, right? A lot of you maybe have post-Ramadan, had set this post-Ramadan goals, intentions, and you had all these options on do A, B, C, have all these goals to set up. And you set a lot of options. I could be doing this way, I could do that way, I could read Quran in the morning, maybe in the evening, maybe I could do exercise in the morning, I could do exercise in the evening, so you put all these options for yourself. And then what happens is you get overwhelmed and you don't end up doing anything, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, I'll do it later, or you just get so confused. So eliminate options. Make it super simple, right? I'm just doing 1 juz in the morning, Quran, that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do 1 hour exercise, which is gonna be running or walking. That's it. I'm not gonna confuse myself with different things. I'm just going to, focus on reading, and for now, reading Quran, maybe memorizing completely, but for me, I'm focusing maybe reading, or I'll focus memorizing, that's it. So you focus on one option and don't overwhelm yourself with multiple options of how you'll do your habits and goals. Does this make sense? Right? Again, the idea of eliminating options, because this is one of the obstacles I've noticed when I coach people, is they get so confused with like, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I have all these different ways of achieving it, and I get overwhelmed. And like, for example, right now I'm going through a cycling training, and initially I was so confused. I had so many different cycling options and training plans. Like I stuck to one training plan. It might not be the best training plan, but it's a training plan, and I eliminated all other options. Otherwise, it gets overwhelming. All right, so eliminate options. And then, of course, the fourth thing, is to, try to manage the negative environments. All right, so we spoke about social pressure and environment. So if you are able to, and again, it all depends on your context. I'm not sure what your contexts are. If you're able to, be in a better environment, have friends. Hopefully, you've met some great friends in Ramadan who work together off. Alhamdulillah, nowadays online is a great way of building environment. We've ourselves built an environment in Barakah Academy, which I personally find Barakah Academy inspiring for myself, just to hang around some amazing people in Barakah Academy, for example. All different types of environments. Environments make a difference. So if you can find yourself in the right environment, build yourself an environment, that's great. If you're not able to, again, depends on the context, whether it's family environment or social environment that's just putting out a lot of pressure, it's again, coming back to the idea of clinging to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Allah for guidance to help you remove from this environment. I was working with people who really were in the most toxic environments, but because of the sincerity, because they worked hard, because they were actively looking to change the environment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for them to, almost like change that environment and to move away from that environment. So be conscious about the environment. Yes, as Sajid mentioned here, I can see too many options has helped me crash. Thank you for sharing that again. Very, very common thing. Options, may help us crash. So we spoke about 3 steps so far. Number 1, press the reset button. Number 2, find out what your maintenance, core, non-negotiable habits are. Again, each person is different, whatever makes sense for you based on where you are in life, based on what you're working towards. And number 3, remove the obstacles, any obstacle, whether it's distractions, internal, either manage or remove them if you can. External distractions, internal distractions. Again, those who attend our masterclass, we talk about how to manage external and internal distractions. Eliminate options. Don't get confused between ways of doing the same thing. And try to manage your negative emotions one way or another. Manage your negative emotion. So that's step 3. Now, if once you get to this level, you can stop here. By the way, you can actually stop here and say, Alhamdulillah, this is actually pretty good. But all of you, inshallah, are productive Muslims, right? So all of you are productive Muslims. You don't just sit there and think, okay, Alhamdulillah, I'm good. We want to help you become spiritually intelligent leaders in your own right who makes an impact in the ummah. Because the reason why we go through all this self-development, personal development, is not just so we can become better versions ourselves. It's to become better versions ourselves so that we can serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and serve the ummah, and especially in our times now. We all saw what happened in Palestine. And I shared the post about we need to awaken the Salah ad-Din inside of us. Well, Salah ad-Din has 2 parts. One is internal Salah ad-Din, meaning we need to figure ourselves out, build ourselves up. We need to get back on track. Remove the distractions, build our habits. But also means to serve, to come out of ourselves, to kind of have impact in this world, and make positive impact. So, in addition to those 3 steps, after you press the reset button, after you build your core habits, you maintain them, and you remove the distractions, the 4th step is to, again, talk about this, again, set your high himma intention. And if you have no idea what a high himma intention is, I highly recommend you check out, there's another YouTube video I did in Ramadan called Intentions Workshop, which goes into detail how to set your high himma intentions. Summary, what is a high himma intention? High himma intention is that intention you set for yourself that it's kind of like your purpose to serve, your purpose in life. Why here? Again, a lot of times we lose motivation when we don't feel there's a fire under us. There's almost like a reason, right? And again, and it's not just and beyond. Yes, you recognize you're here to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's your main reason. And part of that worship is to stand up for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and stand up and do what's right and stand up and serve others and us make an impact. I feel as an ummah, we are an inflection point. And unless we need to get ourselves back on track, but we've been too insular. We need to kind of start recognizing to step up of the game a little bit, right? We need to build ourselves, inshallah, and to serve others, inshallah, and help others, inshallah, and be a better version of ourselves, inshallah. So let's really think about how we can take this knowledge, right? Take this knowledge of self-development, of personal development, and really just become a better version of ourselves, spiritually, physically, socially, so that we can serve the ummah and make impact in the world, inshallah ta'ala. So those are the 4 steps that we wanted to share with you. So I hope that you found this useful and helpful. Please share your thoughts and your ideas, inshallah ta'ala, of what you learned, your key takeaways. Again, we started off this live stream by number 1, understanding that it is normal to go through a dip. You're a human being. It's normal to go through a dip. But however, you be careful. There's a normal dip and there's an abnormal dip. So don't fall for the crash. We want to avoid the abnormal dip. You want to take the normal dip. Yes, there's a dip, but don't go from there, inshallah ta'ala. Number 2, we need to figure out, how to understand that, why we go through these dips. We go through this dip for multiple reasons. There's spiritual reasons, the physical reasons, the fatigue, the psychological reasons, the licensing effect, the environmental reasons, and the social reasons as well, the social pressure basically. And number 3, the idea of setting up the understanding. We need to set up our 4 steps. Press the reset button, understand the core habits, remove the obstacles, and set high himma for the ummah inshallah. Set high himma to serve the ummah inshallah. So I hope this was found very, very point, and I hope that hope it builds us to start thinking more positively and to make the impact, right? And we got to start somewhere. And I see a comment here from someone about Salah ad-Din. I understand your point, Samad. And the point is that you need to start thinking about, unless we ourselves, think if you read the biography of Salah ad-Din, you'll know what I mean, right? The Salah ad-Din, he spent years building himself up, right, before he went out for that military action. So I want you to be conscious of that. We also, put this trajectory of Salah ad-Din as one guy who got up and mashallah went charged in. No, there is a history, there's a generation, right? There's a generation that grew up that built that Salah ad-Din generation. And unless we ourselves, we need to work towards ourselves. We have some serious challenge we're facing with this. We can't even, struggle to wake up for tahajjud and fajr, and we think we can be Salah ad-Dins of the ummah today. So I want you to be conscious that we start there. We need to build a generation, inshallah, of working towards it, and I hope that this makes sense, inshallah. So I hope this found this useful, hope you found this beneficial, inshallah. And again, for those of you who are interested, inshallah, we do have the Productive Muslim Masterclass, which is a 6-week program. We're starting next week, inshallah, on June 1st. If you go to productivemuslim.com/masterclass, you'll find more details, or if you go to our homepage, you'll find more details. The purpose of this masterclass is to help you live a better version of self. We have some alumni here that can share their feedback, and I'd love to share some video of testimonials. People we've done this masterclass for the past 3 years, and over 400 people have gone this masterclass and found it very beneficial. And here's some of their testimonials, inshallah.
I'm Fuad, and here to share my experience about the Productive Muslim Masterclass.
I am very thankful for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helped me come across this opportunity, because with this course I was able to solve so many problems at once.
Before the masterclass, I was struggling to stay focused. I lacked energy during the day. I was struggling to keep up and manage different commitments, and also making new habits stick. I'd start with one habit, it would last maybe a few days or weeks, and then I'd be back to square one. Alhamdulillah, I joined the masterclass and it really helped me. It's been a year and I've seen drastic changes in my life.
I now understand how spiritual can be the source of the power of many roles for me as a woman.
Alhamdulillah, it was quite unique as it struck a balance in approaching productivity from the perspectives of this life and the hereafter. It has helped me kickstart this journey towards becoming a next better version of myself.
I found myself pursuing more to live a fitra lifestyle and take advantage of a barakah culture, taking leverage on pursuing barakah into my actions.
The thing that mostly influenced my life after this course is that to understand the Tawheed and its aspect in terms of our daily lives. It's very important to understand this.
The most important one for me was when I learned the framework and model of the nafs. This was something new and it laid the foundation for me to start managing myself from a different aspect altogether. I feel like I'm now in better control of myself.
So Productive Muslim provides us with the tools that helps us to implement what the Quran teaches us in our particular situation. And we learn that the heart is the king, and if we can have the heart be the king and control the nafs, that will help us in this world and in the hereafter.
The material of training is very comprehensive. The way Coach Faris delivering the training is very engaging, and then the exercise is very applicative.
What also blew my mind is the amount of sincerity and dedication from the Barakah team to give you all the value, to support you all the way. Whatever thing they have in their hands, they can support you with, they will go with you extra miles.
If you haven't heard about Barakah culture, fitra lifestyle before, well, that's one reason for you to take the Productive Muslim Masterclass in the future.
And for anyone who's considering taking this course, inshallah, you take that leap and start your journey to become the next best version of yourself.
All right, so hope to see inshallah, some of you inshallah ta'ala to join upcoming our 12th cohort. This is our 12th cohort, alhamdulillah. So we had about 11 cohorts so far, complete the masterclass. Our 12th one starts Tuesday. On Monday night, I'll be sending this email also to you privately for those who are on the email list. We will have a almost info session, just a very relaxed info session for those who are interested to learn more about the masterclass, what's covered, what's new prerequisites, all that's involved inshallah ta'ala. So if you'd like to learn more, do join our email list, or just join us or just email us at contactus@productmus.com. We'll add you, invite the webinar. It's a private webinar. You can just jump in and just learn more if the masterclass is for you. And inshallah, you can learn more about it on the website called productmus.com/masterclass. It starts on Tuesday on the same time. So for those who join us live, you can actually attend it live, inshallah. And we kind of switched time this year. It's going to be during the weekday, during Tuesdays evening. Hopefully we'll get most people to be able to join instead of the weekends. So I look forward to seeing you there, inshallah. I hope you found this useful and beneficial. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallahumma hamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.